Good evening. Welcome to another episode of On the Front Lines with the Coronavirus, brought to you by First Presbyterian Church of Jamaica, Queens, New York. I'm your host, Julian Perry, and this evening I have the pleasure of having this discussion with Judith White. Judith, welcome.
Thank you, Julian, for
It's,
having me.
it's great to have you here with this evening. Why don't we start off this discussion by you introducing yourself to our viewers?
Okay, my name is Judith White. I am an adult nurse practitioner on the rapid response team at a local city hospital in Queens.
Okay, great. The in Queens part is important because Queens is the epicenter of what's going on in New York. So as I understand it from our brief conversations before, you are on the front lines of the front line. And
Right.
in the previous interviews that I've done, I've spoken to people in the healthcare industry that have dealt with this or parts of the coronavirus, of the COVID-19 from different perspectives. I feel very privileged tonight to be able to speak with you who, as I understand it, have dealt with people from the time they've walked in all the way to intubation and have seen the true devastation firsthand. So I'll turn it over to you to tell our viewers a bit about what you experienced from the first day, going from the normal to the new normal, and how it has impacted you and what you encountered.
Okay, so I just want to set up what we previously experienced prior to the COVID-19 virus pandemic. As a part of the rapid response team, we usually see inpatient or people admitted and are on a regular med-surg unit outside of the ICU that may what we call crash or are quickly deteriorating from respiratory or cardiac or mental status changes. And we are activated to go and rapidly respond and intervene and stabilize those patients. We normally saw 40 to 50 cases per month, but since the coronavirus pandemic, we saw upwards to maybe 150 to 200 patients.
Wow.
After. And I tell you, it was a very overwhelming experience. We did not see those patients coming into the emergency room because our team functions and works on inpatient units, med-surg units in our hospital. So where do I begin? The day that COVID-19 took over our hospital was an intense day. What we walked into was something that I think none of us were prepared for. My shift is a 12-hour shift, and the moment we got there from 7 o'clock in the morning till the time that we were supposed to leave, we had nonstop pages. And those pages were not hour or every 2 hours. These were like 5 and 10 minute pages apart.
Wow.
Yes, running from room to room, literally, and trying to intervene and stabilize patients that were hypoxic, meaning that they were not oxygenating properly due to whatever supplemental O2 device they were on, nasal cannula, from nasal cannula to non-invasive ventilation like BiPAP, to the point where they desaturated, meaning their oxygen level dropped so low, below the normal level of what supposed to be comfortable for our breathing and to support our bodies, to the point where they needed to be intubated and be intubated, meaning placed on a ventilator.
Right. So, first of all, it sounds like you're saying that the ramp up was immediate. It was an intense, not a ramp up where each day you got a bit more, a bit more. You just got hit one day with this huge influx, and according to the charts that we see, went up very quickly.
Right.
So tell
And
me about any specific situation that comes to mind, because obviously I'm believing that you would have dealt with people who did not make it, people who,
oh,
you know,
there were many of those people that did not make it. And I say to you, our numbers increased to 150 to 200, but there were probably so many more that those were just the numbers that we documented. There were so many numbers outside of that that were
okay.
not documented. Um, because with each case, with each scenario, we have to document on everyone. But I can recall there was a particular situation where, or a particular day where just on one unit alone, we had about between 10 rapid responses and what we call codes,
Right.
just on just one unit. And there was one case in particular where there was a young gentleman in his mid to late 40s who was on a BiPAP machine, who was in bed, who, per the nurse, was stable and was doing well, and was decided to just get up and go to the bathroom. He thought that he could just get up and go to the bathroom and he would be okay. And he got up, he went to the bathroom, and he never left the bathroom.
Oh wow.
Made
So
it out
you,
of the bathroom. So the nurse went to check on this patient and found him. He was unresponsive. Uh, she called out for help. I was assisting with another code, another rapid response, um, which I left because that patient had been stable enough for me to leave. And I ran to that room with my colleague was also present. And it took about 6 of us because he was a pretty big guy.
mhm.
We literally had to drag him from the bathroom on a sheet and place him back into the bed. He was pulseless. He was not breathing, and we had to start CPR.
Which I'm assuming in his case was unsuccessful.
Was unsuccessful.
Okay.
And it hurt me because, I mean, we worked so hard on that gentleman. We worked so hard and for so long. And I think that day I cried. I cried for him, and I cried for the fact that he did not have his family there to be with him.
Yeah, so from the patients that you have seen, the ones that have not made it, what would you say you can estimate the age range to be?
For my hospital, I would say many of them were between the ages of 30s all the way
Wow.
up to 70s.
Okay,
As
so that is so important because as we are at the cusp of reopening, okay, um, I think my fears, and I share my fears with a lot of others, I believe, who have dealt with this at one level or the other, the impact of this virus, this pandemic, that number one, there will likely be a second wave because we can look out our doors, look out our windows, and see how many people are ignoring the pleas to wear masks and to socially distance in a responsible manner. And the second one is the invincibility we tend to have or tend to perceive as human beings that it will happen to someone else, but not us. I
exactly.
share that personally because I remember telling one of the pastors at my church when this started that I was not going to get this. And a week later, I was positive.
Right.
I went through a serious bout with it. So, what do you think? Um, would be your message at this point, not only to the population of New York that has suffered so much, but even to officials who and business owners, people who are pushing for economic purposes and who have been unaffected and feel that they can go ahead with this?
So I waver uh, with this question and my answer because I'm on the fence. I and many of my colleagues that work in the healthcare industry that are frontline workers, that are essential workers that were not affected or had any impact from any of the uh, issues that happened with the economy. I waver with this because I know that there are so many people who have become unemployed. There are so many people that need to return to work
Right.
because financially they are feeling the burden. You know,
Right.
a lot of them are head of household and they need to take care of their families. So I waver with this question and my answer because I do want to have the economy reopen, the government reopen for people to return. And I really do want our lives to go back to normal, but I know that it cannot happen because of what I've experienced and so many of our other frontline workers and essential workers have experienced because of the coronavirus. I think we need to take action in a manner that, yes, we should continue to socially distance ourselves, not emotionally, but socially
Correct.
distance
Correct.
ourselves,
Yeah.
to continue to wear our masks and to heed the warnings that our experts are telling us about this virus. Yes, there is going to be a spike, and
Right.
we see it in other states that it's happening.
Correct.
But I want us to be proactive. I want young people to take this message seriously, that we need to be proactive and not to believe that they cannot be affected, because they easily and truly can be affected. I think that when I say proactive, we need to start doing things, implement certain behaviors that will prevent us from, can we call
Infection.
it
Yeah,
infection?
reinfection. So I think that one of the things I'm seeing a lot of businesses are adopting, the ones that can, is teleworking. And because they've seen I think out of every bad situation comes good. And in this new normal, what I think a lot of the companies who are willing to think outside of the box in terms of their business and getting people back to work is the ability to telework in a lot of cases, which benefits them in other ways because some bigger companies can pay for less real estate since people are working in this new model. Um, I agree with you that it will be a new normal that looks nothing like our world in 2019. But the impact of what people need to learn, I think, is what's missing. So, despite the fact that this conversation is an ongoing one, I'd like you, as someone who has seen, I'm assuming, hundreds of deaths, have seen the tragedy of the families, of giving the news, of seeing people with, in some cases, multiple deaths within one family, to leave our viewers with a message, however you want them to understand the best you can from your experience. I'd like you to leave them with a message tonight as to the severity of this and what you would wish for them.
Um, our community has been so impacted by this virus. We have suffered so disproportionately in comparison to other communities and other ethnic groups that I want our young people especially to really pay attention to how the world has changed, how this virus has changed our world, and not to take anything for granted, not to take their lives, especially their health, especially for granted, to pay attention to how they eat, how they socialize, how they function. Um, I think that's so important because my message is really and truly for young people, because we need them, because they are our future to continue to survive as a community. So I want them to really focus and to pay attention and to make the necessary changes in their lives that if they cannot go out and socialize with their friends the same way as they were doing before, to make that adjustment, to make that change, and to reinvent a different way of socializing. Yes, Zooming, telecommunicating is, I think, what's going to be the future. And I think that that's something for us to look into, but very much so. But we also need to look at how to be more proactive, as I said before, and how to be more active in the ways that we need to go forward in living healthier lives and having some kind of reinvention of ourselves, not of what we were before, but going forward with something new, that's something better, and to keep ourselves safe.
Mhm. So I think that is a resounding and passionate message, and I'm hoping that through this medium that our audience will help to spread not only the message of the future, but the understanding of what the people on the front line have experienced as human beings, and the understanding that if we don't heed the warnings, it is not just the lives of which seems like a whole generation has been lost, 30,000 people in New York City alone, but they're putting the lives of people like yourself at risk again every single day, because we all play a part in getting through this. So I thank you so much for taking the time this evening to speak with me. I thank you for the job that you do, and I wish you safety and God's blessings as you continue to take care of us. Thank you so much, Judith.
Thank you.
Have a good evening.
You too.